Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of To Be Quite Honest, your go to podcast for deep conversations around the world of real estate and more. I remain your ever beautiful host, Norma, and with me I have.
Check, check. Big Ben.
Hi, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
feels great to be back again.
Yeah,
Feels
always.
great to be back. Today we have a very, very special discussion. We're going to have a very, very special discussion. And to lead that discussion, we had earlier on asked, our viewers, yourselves, to send us your real estate horror stories. And we have someone who is very, very experienced, who's well versed in the industry, who would help us, respond to many of these questions that most of you have sent to us.
Our very own.
Now,
He's our
drum
very
roll.
own.
Sorry?
I said he's our
Oh,
very own.
definitely our very own, one of our guys at the top.
As
You
in,
know?
we're supposed to be prostrating when we're introducing.
All right, without further ado, we'd like to make welcome the Chief Commercial Officer, Mixter Africa, in the person of Mr. Tola Akinsulire. Mr. Tola, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're most
Pleasure to
welcome.
be hanging out with you.
Yeah, we
Yes.
love having you on your
Yes.
seat. It suits you so well.
Okay.
We love having you on our seat. It suits you like as in. We should be,
Like I'm fixed.
yeah, like it fits you. Like we should have you move to that
Alright.
too.
It's okay. I'm okay with being part of the furniture here.
Ah, no, that's what I mean, but
Okay.
All right, Mr. Tola, could you please just tell our viewers
a bit of what you do. Yeah.
What you do.
Okay, a little about what I do. Okay, I'll just say that my first job is basically to make sure we make money. So once we get that out of the way, that's the first thing. Well, but really, it's more than just making money. My job is really to make sure that the clients that trust us with their own investments, they actually get proper value from it. Because we only make money when our clients are happy. So that's really the big picture story of everything that I do.
Definitely.
Brief,
So,
brief summary of what.
yeah, very brief and concise.
I like it.
So, Noma, would you?
Yeah,
start to
so
read out
we'll
the
just
stories?
dive right into like we said, we asked our viewers to send in some questions, and they have and we'll just like to ask that. I hope you're ready. Nothing too serious. Nothing
Is
too.
anybody ever ready for horror? That's why they always scream.
Anyways, okay, so before we begin, like let's start with a brief. You're just coming to Nigeria. You're living prior in Senegal. He was living in Senegal, and I hope our viewers know we're situated in Senegal. We have in 8 countries, but we're currently in 5 mixed Africa. But yeah, so Tola had just come back from Senegal, so we just wanted to ask you if there's like any experience at the time that you maybe know of, a horror story experience, not necessarily mixed up. Maybe when you had moved, how was it to basically settle like your own housing experience in Senegal?
Okay.
Before we dive into the questions our audience have asked.
Okay, one of the things I would say here is this: when it comes to real estate, almost every part of the world has its own unique stories. One of the beautiful things that I can say about Nigeria is that if you are renting an apartment somewhere in Ikoyi or VI, you'd almost have a 90% certainty that beyond just the apartment, everything around the apartment is all set. But Senegal is one of those unique places whereby you can get an accommodation in a highbrow apartment, and around the apartment, it was actually one of the experiences I had when I was house hunting.
Yeah.
One of the first apartments that they took me to, it had just rained, so we basically had to waddle our way through the mud, and then we went to this magnificent edifice. And I remember telling the agent that brought me that, why doesn't the developer just do something around the area? But it's one of those different philosophies. I know generally for us in Nigeria, most developers, you try to do around the building, at least make it look a lot better. But the perspective is a lot different. The general perception is that it's the government that has to do that. My job is basically to set up the building. So you get a lot of that kind of thing, that you have a lovely building, but the infrastructure that surrounds it is next to nothing. I actually have some friends. Now, let me tell you, there was a day we were coming out of church, and one of my friends, I saw her, she was wearing rain boots. I was like, why are you wearing rain boots? Please note, she lives in one of the high-end areas. She was like, oh, my area is flooded, so I'm wearing these rain boots because I'll probably have to waddle through the flood to get there. And these are not typical things you get. You're not going to get an Ikoyi or a VI flooded, but you have the sort of experiences that could happen in there.
Senegal.
Yes.
But I'm curious, does the government do so much in terms of infrastructure, seeing that developers are not willing to invest in that?
Yeah,
Does
like
government
that.
really support them to that extent?
Well, you see, the case of Senegal is pretty unique in the fact that you've had a lot of activity. Let me tell you one thing about Senegal. Senegal has had a beautiful selling point, and that's the fact that they've had one of the most stable democracies across Africa, and that has brought a lot of people to be interested in real estate. And so you find out that everybody wants to build because not only Senegalese are going to invest, but you also have people with the rest of West Africa who are going to invest. And so you find out that developers are actually building aggressively well ahead of the government is able to catch up on infrastructure. And because developers are not thinking along the lines of infrastructure, you have that significant gap in even, like I said, the highbrow areas.
All right, so Norma, would you get into the questions right away?
Okay. So, are you ready for the first question our audience sent in?
Are you ever ready for this?
So I'm sure you are. But anyway, so this is from Jennifer. She said, "To be QH gang, see me see wala. My mom bought our house a few years ago for 90 million. I remember asking the guys if there was any dispute or issues over the house or land, and they assured me that everything was in order and I won't have any problems. Now the Lagos state government has demolished the house, saying that the house is blocking the drainage or canal that she doesn't understand, and developers are not giving us any form of compensation because apparently they didn't have a C of O from Alausa, and they are also running at a loss. What do we do?"
That's a very sad story, and it actually goes back to even the beginning before they actually acquired the property. So interesting. I'm going to be going back to the past, which really doesn't answer the present. Before you actually buy a property, it's very important that you get a lawyer to do a bit of investigation, goes to the land registry just to confirm the title ownership that the developer is claiming, and to be sure that the developer has the right to be able to transfer that title ownership. Because in situations like this, if the government for whatever reasons decides that they want to demolish a property, if the developer has the right title and has transferred the right title to the mother, then it's possible for you to be able to get compensation. But obviously in this situation, that's the big risk that she seems to have taken. So really, there is no good way to say this other than really, if the mother has the strength and the capacity to actually take the developer to court, you can actually do that. In this case, the only recourse that they have is actually to the developer, because really the developer did not hold himself out in good faith in terms of providing a property that matches the necessary government approvals, and at the same time did not even have the requisite title to be able to transfer it. So really the recourse that she has is really to the developer, not to the government.
But 90 million.
That's to borrow the words of Donald Trump, that's huge. Really.
You know, and something else is jumping out of the question. The fact that they had to demolish the property because it's facing a drainage or a canal or something, it means that the developer did not even get approval for that property. So a lot of developers, have the idea for the house, they have the funding in place, and sometimes you can't blame them. It takes quite some time to get approvals from the government.
And they want to make quick money.
Well, they want to get into the market fast, and
you're getting into the market without any form of approval. What's the point?
So now I'm even thinking, what are the chances that they even get anything from the developer? Because
exactly,
I want to believe that the developer has probably built more than the units.
Just her own. We're not talking about the rest that has been affected.
If there's a class action and everybody's trying to lay claim to my 90 million, my 110 million, that developer will most likely run out of Lagos. That's the truth.
Well, the only point here is you hope that maybe the developer has other developments in other places
that you can hold on to.
Which is the reason why if you take it to court, it might be possible you might be able to get something somewhere else.
Okay, but I also have a follow. Like now, also let's remember that the question states that she didn't have C of O, so she doesn't have any.
Or the developer.
The developer didn't give them.
The developer did not give them a title.
Yes. So when you're taking developer to court, what is your proof?
And you want to take something on?
I mean, it's even looking like the absence of due diligence on their parts could even give the developer some upper hand. I think if his lawyer is able to prove that,
they can deny that they didn't even buy from them.
Well, but no, it doesn't really make any sense. Developer, anyhow you want to look at, developer is definitely
in trouble.
But
no C of O.
Not having C of O I don't think is a problem. A lot of properties are unregistered around Lagos because it costs a lot of money to process CFO and it takes a lot of time, right? So
you're advising our audience not to have CO.
no, I'm not advising people out there not to get CFO. By all means, if you need to invest in properties with secure titles. But there are a lot of, I hear the numbers are like almost 60%, if not even more, of properties in Lagos do not even have a CFO or governor's consent or something. So
she's willing to get something. Jennifer is willing to get something out of this. Tola, you say that?
Well, I mean, so let me try and be sure I understand it clearly. The developer did not have a CFO. Is that what? Or
the developer, she didn't get a CFO. From let's refer back to the question.
It should have been a deed of assignment or something.
Oh, she's even saying apparently, and the developers are not giving us any form of compensation because apparently they didn't have a CFO.
So the
developer itself don't have CFO.
Exactly. So that's the problem. They didn't do their deal at the inception of that transaction.
So that means Jennifer is willing to get something if she takes the developer to court.
That's the only. But even before she takes the developer to court, she should actually do a bit of investigation and assess the developer. Because there's no use spending money on lawyers and
not getting anything.
It's not likely that the developer has anything to. But if, for example, he does a bit of investigation, identifies that the developer probably has other developments, other places, that means there's a possibility he might be able to get. And I would recommend she tries as quickly as possible to do that before every other person joins the queue. Because if she gets in the queue first and is able to get something before every other person gets, at least she might be able to extract some sort of value from the developer.
Okay.
So I mean, bottom line, due diligence is super, super important.
Yeah.
We've had lots of guests who have come on the show here to talk about how important it is and how to even go about it.
Yeah.
Someone enlightened us and told us then to not just do legal due diligence, we should also do social due diligence. Go around area, talk to people. I'm sure that if they had even spoken to people who, the dry cleaning business in the neighborhood, just some people around, they might have even told them, look, this is a no-go area. Forget the fact that the houses they are building here look good, and also if they had done a proper search at Alausa.
But do you think those that told them no, this is a no-go area? What if the developer is a very nice man, does a lot for the community? Will you not be spoiling some of your helper?
Well, that's why the legal due diligence. You cannot be a nice guy to Alausa as well. So
okay. All right. Our second question, Ben.
Okay, so this is from Bisola. Why are we having ladies sending us these questions?
Maybe the men they are sending their wives.
So Bisola is saying, guys, I need advice. The coastal road is going to and is already causing problems for my business. I wasn't told by the developers that the location was going to interfere with the project, and I just settled on this location just before it was announced. Do I seek compensation from the government or do I take the developers to court? Please help me, Tola.
Well, the way it is pretty simple. The government only gives compensation to the person who has title with them. So if the developer has not transferred title to this gentleman, then the government will give compensation to the developer and then the developer can transfer his own portion to him. But if the developer has transferred title to him, then he should seek it directly from the state government. That would be my own.
So I think this now takes us back to the,
due diligence
aspect. What documents do they have?
I mean, I don't doubt it's not impossible. The developer might actually have the requisite title. It's just the typical thing that happens. Most of us, when we get our deed of assignment, we just, as long as it's a reputable developer, just say no, let's keep it there until maybe one day when we feel we have enough money to go and register it. So it's not impossible. This gentleman has not registered his title. So since he has not registered his title, he has to wait for the developer to get the compensation and then have some sort of transfer to him.
Okay, back to this coastal road, right? I know that a lot of developers are happy about it. I mean, Nigerians in general were jumping about it. The fact that it's a form of development that we've never seen before. We're also excited. But what would you say? Okay, now like Bisola has said, it's affecting her business. What would you think? Like all those business owners that necessarily have something along that axis, and how the government is just, regardless, they need to do it anyway. I know that they say, I've had some conversation, they had said when you go to Alausa, it's right there, they were always going to be coastal road. So what do you think you can tell to all these people that never maybe thought in their lifetime that the coastal road will never come, and right now is affecting their business? What sort of advice do you have to give to them?
I mean, like a landmark and and others.
Well, you see, it's in this situation that, okay, so two things. Number one, the fact that we all knew that coastal road was going to happen. From the word get-go, we've always known that they had plans for coastal.
Yeah, but you know how Lagos and Nigeria is. You can be slow. They might have thought that they've forgotten about it.
Yeah, so you are praying that your, in quotes, your enemy does not
Remember you
does
one
not
day.
remember. Yes, and that's basically what you just said. So effectively, what they've done is they've taken the risk of their business, assuming that look, coastal road is not going to happen. Now coastal road is happening. I mean, look, it's a business risk they've taken. There's nothing you can say about that. And the truth about life here is this: I can understand this perspective from the government, but what now comes to play is what is the scale of your business to warrant whether the government is going to bring you to the table. For example, like Landmark that we are talking about, because of the scale of their business, government has brought them to the table in terms of, okay, how can we try to make this thing a lot better so that it doesn't significantly impact your business. And I know I was watching a video by the minister not too long ago saying that, look, Landmark, nobody's going to lose their jobs. Effectively, they are finding a way around it. I mean, that's what happens when you have a business that has significant impact. But yeah, most of the other businesses are mom and pop businesses. Unfortunately, that comes with the territory. There are certain risks you take with regards to your business.
I said, I mean, it's a great win for Lagos, Nigeria, but at the same time, when you hear of all these businesses impacted, like it really affected, it's kind of sad, you
So
know.
for me, I would say it's taking a position against the government's plans is not a good thing to do, because it means you're anti-development, you're anti-progress.
This guy, you must be a politician. The way you are just saying these people, they are going anti this. The way you just went anti this.
I won't be shocked in the next 10 years Ben is into politics.
I mean, if you know government plans to do this, and this thing, when it's done, would significantly impact, transportation systems, and even open up, new opportunities in certain parts of town that were hitherto, transportation lines were not connecting to those areas. I don't think that's a position you want to.
You want to be in,
You
like,
don't want to be in that kind of position.
so I'll
government
take it
is
that
not
you
going
don't even
to-
have any empathy for the ones that
I would not say I have no empathy for them. I sincerely do. I mean, I feel bad for them that they have to lose their businesses, their source of living. People would be out of jobs. But for those there are some people, for instance, around the Water Corporation Drive, I heard this was not the original plan. So it was recently they changed it. So for people like that who are now affected because of the rerouting of the road, I mean, I obviously feel bad for them. Do you understand? But for those who intentionally believe that, I think we're in Nigeria, which government would do that? When would they do this? This is a white elephant project. I mean, they'll just have to count their losses and move on.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And then Tola, this one is just basically from, I would not say from an investor. I don't even know what to call. I don't know who said the question is quite tricky, but the person is asking for some advice on how to do due diligence, because basically just want to understand. I think the person is just basically asking, what advice will you give to us investors on doing due diligence, developers on proper ethics, and how the government can also help both ends?
Okay.
So due diligence
That
on
is-
developers.
That's what I said. It's a bit of a loaded question. So is it due diligence as an investor investing in what? Is it real estate? Investing in real estate. So yeah. So for example, it all depends on the type of real estate you're investing. So for example, if you are investing in just a regular development which is done by a developer, then it's always recommended get a lawyer to help you do a due diligence on that transaction. I mean, the lawyers understand it better in terms of whether there are, beyond just the typical thing that they would have to check in terms of checking the land registry, they would also have to check if there's any contention in terms of if there are any pending court cases in court. Those are some of the things you need to check, because yes, you might not have an issue on the title, but there might be court cases that may have significant impact on your ownership in the future. So you need to get a lawyer to also help you do that level of investigation, so that at least you give yourself that level of comfort that both now and in the future, as far as you can see, nothing is going to happen if you buy this property. I mean, if for example you're now doing like an investment project which is tied to real estate, yes, in addition to that layer of getting your lawyers to do all that, you now need to get a financial advisor to actually look at some of the numbers, because everybody who presents a proposal is always presenting the most optimistic scenarios,
just to get your attention.
Exactly. So you need a financial advisor to help you look at that, stress test the numbers, scenario analysis, and just be sure that those numbers make sense. I mean, that would be the way in which I would address that question.
Okay.
I mean, interestingly, I would also like to get your perspective on some other West African markets that where you've you've spent some time, like Cote d'Ivoire, for instance. What would you say is like a striking difference between how real estate is done here in Nigeria and over there in Cote d'Ivoire?
Okay, I would say, and this doesn't speak just to only Cote d'Ivoire. I think this thing speaks very much to Francophone West Africa.
Yeah.
Francophone West Africa generally has a strong centralized bureaucracy. So, for example, in Nigeria now, if you want to do your building approval, you go to the within the state, you go to the ministry that is responsible for that. Whereas in Cote d'Ivoire, what you have is you have a one-stop shop. Now, that one-stop shop is responsible for everyone. You understand? So, and the one-stop shop, yeah, the logic behind it is actually lovely. So you have a one-stop shop whereby every single government agency that is meant to be they are all part of that committee, so that look, effectively, if your drawings and everything passes through that process, you've scaled everything. The only problem is that they meet only once a month. So they have to review everybody once a month. So that means if you don't meet this month, God knows when it is. So that sort of thing. So you have that layer of bureaucracy that slows up things and slows down the process. I mean, the other thing which I would say, in quotes, the Francophone countries, even though it's like a chicken and egg situation that they have, because their currency is mapped to the French currency, they're able to have a stable exchange rate, and that stable exchange rate helps to keep the inflation levels significantly lower, and effectively in terms of your interest rate. So, for example, you want to do a real estate project, you can actually walk to the bank and probably get a single-digit interest rate loan to do a development. That's something you wouldn't get in Nigeria. You don't understand that sort of thing. So it makes it a lot easier. The only difference I would say is that the population is not as much. So in terms of the scale of the project you probably you may not do that sort of scale that you'll be able to get away with in Nigeria. You may not get away with it in those areas. But look, it's a lovely market, and beyond just the typical, even doing the, so for example, most developers you do for the purpose of selling, but really there you can actually build for the purpose of getting rental yields, because rental yields, they charge their rent monthly, and that monthly rent, by the time I used to joke, I said when I was living in Senegal, the rent I paid on a monthly basis, if I accumulate it into a year annual rent, I definitely should be staying somewhere in Ikoyi, all those very VIP places. But that's just it. I'm just saying in terms of the sort of returns you would get from rental yields, it's a lot better than the rental yields that you get in a country like Nigeria. So yeah, it's a good market. You just have to understand the differences, know the different rhythms that you have between the two markets, really.
So if there were two things you would like to see happen, if there were two ideas we could import from the Francophone side
to
Nigeria, what would those two be? I think you've given us one already.
I see. If there was interesting, that if there was one idea, I'm always very careful about that, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm always very careful about saying something I want to import. I was having a conversation with an Ivorian, say within the last not too long ago. I was having a conversation with him. He's had the opportunity of living in places like South Africa and Ghana, and he lives in Senegal at the moment. And he was telling me, he said, look, one of the things missing in Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire is that it lacks the entrepreneurial drive that you have in Nigeria. Now, the effect is that things don't move as fast as even though you complain in Nigeria that things move slow, but I would say because of that entrepreneurial drive, you actually see that things move a bit faster than in your Francophone West Africa. And so, but people in that area have already been conditioned to that approach, and so for them, except you have a bit of pockets of complaint, but they are used to it. It's becoming normative for them. So, I mean, the only thing I would tell you really, if I could talk about importing one thing from Francophone West Africa, is the rate at which I'm able to borrow. If I could get something like that, honestly, that's the one thing. Honestly, that is the one thing I would love to be able to bring into Nigeria. You understand? If it was possible for me to get those low interest rates, honestly, that would be a huge game changer. Game changer, not only in terms of development, but even in terms of ownership. For example, you can get single-digit mortgages. Of course, you have the typical barriers whereby for you to get your your equity contribution. That's probably the biggest barrier you go through. Other than that, you can get a single digit mortgage there. Whereas, we all know the story in Nigeria.
Yeah, it's like 30% plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
but-
that'd be one thing I would love to see
bring-
to bring here if it was possible.
Well, I have one final question before we call it to a close. So you know how we hear all the stories of investors and all these stories of developers going to develop what they're not meant to develop. It's not like that there, right?
Because okay, so now let me tell you the thing here is this: there is a strong level of control when it comes to development there. Like here, whereby developers can actually go to site and start construction. You cannot try that in Francophone West Africa. The way it even goes is that, look, by the time you're even presenting your documentation and everything for approval, you almost have to give, as it were, like a life cycle plan in terms of how you want the project to go. You almost have to present it. So it is only when you get the approval that they would allow you to you can actually go and start construction. People don't take that risk of starting construction without getting an approval. And after you even complete your construction, you now have to invite the ministry. They will come and inspect to be sure that you built according to all the specifications that you said. So if you didn't build according to specification, that is another trouble that you're going to go. So there's a lot of rigid control in terms of how. So you're not going to have that kind of situation whereby developer is just going to build anything however it is, because you can't even build without approval.
Is land grabbing a thing over there as well?
Land grabbing, not so much, because the power over the land is really, really controlled by the government. So yes, if you have issues with regards to land, that means it probably has a government issue tied to it. So for example, you actually have cases whereby people have gotten title, they've always believed they have their title and they have legitimate title, and then the government comes and tells you that, look, for whatever reason, I'm taking back the title. So you have situations like that happens. So they tell you that they're expropriating the land for whatever public purpose that they say. So that in itself, there's a long process you don't have to go through. Sometimes you may get a replacement land as compensation or whatever. The government is not going to pay you cash. So it is either you have the patience to be able to follow through to actually get some sort of compensation land at a different location by the government. But you don't have so much of land grabbing because of the control that the government has on it.
Yeah. I think these are a few things Nigeria should also grab.
I mean, these are the kind of perspectives
We like to
not just that. These are the kind of perspectives that reside within our organization, and help us become a very well-rounded, real estate development company at the end of the day. Our guest here has, very massive experience in Francophone West Africa and even Anglophone West Africa, and you can only imagine how much, all of this has impacted, the entire business. So, Mr. Tola, we're so grateful to have you on set, and we'll most likely invite you some other time. You obviously have a lot of information that our viewers,
but we hope you had a good time.
Yeah.
The only thing was that I hope after this show there's going to be refreshments or something. Yeah, after this.
Yeah, no more. I'll see to that. You see to that.
No, but we really liked having you, and we'll definitely call you back. And to our viewers, we say thank you and see you next time. Bye.